Hey preppers, how are you doing? To Ayers and gun enthusiasts and all that kind of stuff. It's Rich down here in the bunker. Hey, several months ago, I had done a, let's see, range stories or stories from the range. And I had a suggestion. I can't remember the person that suggested it, but he said, hey, what about the worst stories, the worst things you've seen in the range since you've been working there? And I thought about it, and put together a small little list here. And they're kind of interesting. I mean, and that, at the moment they were probably horrors. You might think, oh, that probably happens all the time. Or of course, some of you might say, oh dear God, really? That happened? Well, these are some of the horror stories from the range. Let's go to the top one. And this story basically tells you why you wear glasses. We're in the range, just sitting there, and I was not really paying too much attention. I had a few people in there. I just talked to them and welcomed them into the range and everything. And there was a young couple, and they both had been shooting for a very long time. And the lady shot, and then she moved off to the side, still in the booth area, and her boyfriend was shooting. And I got up and I walked around and I turned as he shot, and her head went back like this, and she put her hand up on her forehead, and I thought, oh no. And all of a sudden, between her fingers, blood started coming down her hand. I turned, grabbed my first aid kit, my trauma kit, and walked over there, and she's laughing. And I'm going, okay. Shot dead center, forehead, just above the glass lines, almost in between the eyebrows. And she's laughing, and she goes, I think I got hit with the brass, but I think it cut my forehead. And I said, yeah, it really cut your forehead. So I put gloves on, got some pads out and some gauze, and put it over her forehead, and then I got her some antiseptic foam to clean her hands off. And as I was holding this on her forehead, and her boyfriend's totally freaked out because there's blood. I mean, seriously, if you've ever had a head injury, a cut, anything, the head bleeds. The head bleeds a lot. And I mean, I'm telling you, when I saw it, it was coming down her hand. And I did calm down a little bit when she started laughing, but when we actually got it to slow down just a little bit, if you think of a 9mm case, the open end, it had almost circumferently around her head. It was like a crescent moon, almost a full crescent moon, right here. And we did get it to stop bleeding, and put a Band-Aid on it. She went to the bathroom, washed up, and came back and shot. I mean, what a trooper. She was awesome. I was still a little freaked out for a while, because you can guess what I thought had happened. But that was, that's one of the horror stories, and that's why we wear glasses, because I'm thinking, like we were talking with them later, just if she wouldn't have had glasses, if she was over a little bit, it probably would have taken, at least the sight out of her eyes, or, something close to it. So that's why we wear glasses. Along with this story did not happen to me. This is something about glasses. In our range, it says eye and ear protection on before you go into the range. Plain and simple, plain and simple. So this happened to one of the other RSOs. He was telling me the story that there was a couple of guys in there, and they refused to wear glasses. And he walked up to him and says, okay guys, you got to wear glasses. And they, yeah. So he walked down the line. He said they were full. It was a Saturday morning. He walked all the way down to the other side of the range, came back, and they're still sitting there shooting. One guy's on his phone, the other guy's shooting, still not wearing glasses. So guys, have to wear glasses. I don't want anything to happen to your eyes. And they go, yeah, just leave us alone. We're fine. And he goes, no, I'm serious. When I come back the next time, if you don't have your glasses on, you're out of here. It's just a safety rule. It's insurance. It's for your precaution. It's for everybody's safety. Yeah, they were like giving him all kinds of shit about it. So he went down, and he turned around, and we have a door between the two 10-lane ranges. He opened the door, and he said, I'm telling you for the last time, put your glasses on. And the guy turns and says, no, I'm not doing it. kick me out. And he kicked them both out. The guy charged him. I mean, he said he was a big dude. Now, that guy I'm talking is smaller than I am. And I'm not that big. I'm only like 5'9", okay? Charges him. He actually pulls up his shirt, retrieves his firearm out of his holster. The guy stops, freaks out, and runs out the door. And his buddy's standing there with his eyes, he told me his buddy's there with his eyes wide open, with the RSO, with his firearm in his hands, ready to drawn and ready to present. And the guy goes, okay. He reholstered, as he told me. The guy picked up all his shit and went outside. And I guess these two guys caused a huge commotion out in the range, just screaming and all that kind of stuff. They ended up calling the cops on these guys, and they ended up getting trespassed. As far as I know, they've never come back, all because they didn't want to wear glasses. And I'm thinking, my God. You know, when I talked to the RSO again, and he said, this guy was like 6'4" and probably 300 pounds, and he's charging me. I had no choice. So we viewed the videotape later, and I agreed. He had to pull his weapon. There was his firearm. There was absolutely no choice. This guy, what his intentions were, just to scare him, totally justifiable. They talked to the cops, and the cop says these guys cannot come back ever again. They had their information, and I think they call it they were trespassed, or whatever. If they come back, then they could be arrested for trespassing. So that was another one. That was crazy. Why you don't cross your thumbs? This started out as no big deal. I mean, we all know you don't cross your thumbs, otherwise it's going to get you Band-Aids, and it's going to get you, or gauze and 4x4s and all that kind of good stuff, and it's just going to rip, the skin right off the top of your thumbs. You don't cross your thumbs, you put them off to the side. We all know that. But I wish I had $1 for every time I said either, hey, don't cross your thumbs, or hey, I wouldn't let him/her cross her thumbs, to whoever they're with. Because they're sitting there with the camera taking a video of the new shooter, and the new shooter has the thumbs crossed, and I can see that and sometimes it's up like this on the back of the firearm, and I'm going, stop. Well, wasn't paying any attention to these two guys, and I mean, they shot there a lot. I mean, they knew what was going on. Well, apparently the one guy forgot about not crossing your thumbs, and he comes over to me. He says, hey, I crossed my thumbs, I got bit, and I'm bleeding a little bit. Well, bleeding a little bit was kind of like going back to the story about the girl with the spiral cut on her forehead. Well, he had this tiny little cut across here. I'd never seen a thumb bleed like that. Well, so I went and got my trauma kit, came back, and he's standing there holding it, and it's just dripping blood all over their stall, and he's laughing about it. I don't know what it is about people bleeding and laughing, but whenever they're bleeding, they're pretty much laughing at the range. I don't know, maybe it's an embarrassment reaction to what's going on, but it's dripping, I mean, a lot. So I put a Band-Aid on it. It bleeds through it. I put another Band-Aid on tighter. It bleeds through that, So then I got like a 4x4, folded it in half, put it on there, and taped it. And it bled right through that. So then I got another 4x4, put it on real tight, had the guy, his buddy, hold it for me, and I just taped and taped and taped and taped and taped. And we just waited, and he kept holding the inside between his thumb and forefinger, and it stopped bleeding. And I'm thinking, geez, from a little bitty cut like that. So I guess that's not really a horror story, but at the moment, I mean, by the time we get to, there is blood and bloody Band-Aids and gauze and stuff everywhere. So they left. I said, go wash up, because this guy's hand was just full of blood, So he left, and I got to clean up after that, I changed gloves after I took care of him. I put new gloves on. we have this solution that we clean up body fluids with, clean that up, and then wash the floor and everything, and then open that bay up. But that was like the cut from hell. That was just absolutely unbelievable. I couldn't believe that one. I call this one Relax, It's Empty. Well, there's a lot of times, and everybody, they get two people in the lane, and a lot of times the guy's up shooting, the guy behind him is just standing there. Well, not always. Sometimes they like to play with a firearm. Well, you can't play with a firearm if there's somebody downrange of you. Well, so these guys were standing there, and this isn't the only time this has happened. This has happened several times, but this is the most, the one that I remember the most, and the reaction from the guys were the most dramatic, should I say. So I'm walking back, and this guy, he's loading. There's another guy behind him, so they got a guy downrange. All right, and he's playing with that, and I hear him, release the mag and put it back in, release the mag, put it back in, not all the way out. And I go, hey, you can't do that. You cannot have a firearm in your hand with somebody downrange. He goes, why? He says, no, it's empty. Really? I says, is it empty? Well, let's see. Let me have it. So he hands it to me. I point downrange, pull the trigger, and it goes off. And it didn't lock back, which means there was a second bullet, at least a second bullet in it. Dropped the magazine, which was full, racked the slide, bullet comes out. I turn to them. He is white as a ghost, literally white as a ghost, and goes, I'm out of here. And he left. And his buddy was like, what just happened? And I told him what just happened, and he goes, are you effing serious? I go, I'm effing serious, dude. And he goes, I don't want to do this again. This was not rentals. This was not a first time the guy's ever been there. This is a guy that came a lot and brought different friends and stuff like that. He literally freaked out. He just left his stuff and walked out of the range. And I went to the windows to see where he went. He walked literally outside the building. Gone. I had all his firearms. I had his ammunition. I had everything sitting there. So I packed it all up, put it all to the side, called the manager. Manager came in, grabbed it, told him what happened. The manager went back and viewed the video and got me on the phone. He said, oh, crap. Rich, did that just happen? I says, yeah, it just happened. He said, I can't believe it. I said, well, I can't believe it either, but it's not the first time it's happened. And the manager kind of got freaked out. But I've never seen these guys come back at all. I know the guy came back in and picked up his firearms and everything like that. I don't know if he still shoots, but I'm sure that was a wake-up call, and that should be a wake-up call to everybody. Be honest with you, I didn't expect their gun to fire. I just thought it was going to be an empty magazine, no big deal. And with actually one in the chamber and it fired, I was like, wow. I was just like, wow. So that was almost a true horror story in the range. No holster draw. There's a reason why there's no holster draw, unless you are trained and unless you are in a class. And one of the biggest reasons that I can remember was one evening, there were several people. They had gotten a couple lanes, so I think there were 4 or 5 people there. And normally we only leave two people in the range per lane, but it was a small group. The place was pretty empty, so all 5 were in there. And the one guy, I told the guys, I said, all right, everybody, if you're carrying, you have to unholster in here. And they go, why? Well, because we don't allow holster draw, and it could get caught in your clothes. Just do it, put it down. You don't have to shoot that one, or you don't have to empty it. You don't have to pull the mag or anything. Just put your concealed carry out, put it on the tray. So everybody did it, and so I thought, and maybe they did. I don't know. So I coming back, and there's a guy, and he has his shirt up. Now he's open carry. He's got a firearm in there, and I go to walk over to talk to him, and he reaches down, pulls his firearm out, and as he's pulling it up, the firearm in hand hits the tray. The firearm goes off, hits the lower part of the tray, becomes shrapnel, goes down, peppers his leg and his right foot. And he sets his firearm down, and he looks down at his leg, and there's holes in his jeans, and there's a small hole in his shoe, and he turns to me and goes, "Ow." And that's all he said. And I said, "Now you know why we don't do holster draw here." He goes, "Yeah, I guess." I said, "All right, let's see what you got." So he had small little cuts down the outside of his right leg, because he was in the isosceles position when he pulled, and it hit the tray and went down and shattered and came and splintered or whatever, produced shrapnel. Hit his leg and his foot. There was nothing on his foot. There was a piece of shrapnel, small little pieces of the bullet and the tray, because it put a hole in the tray, in his shoe. And needless to say, he left, and he said, "Hey, I'm gonna wait outside. I'll be out there when you guys are done." So that's why you don't holster draw either, because it's just too dangerous unless you're in a controlled setting, or you know what you're doing, or the range has approved you to do that. I got one more story. I got to remember what it is. I got called over to a range one day, and this happens more often than you would. You'd be surprised how many times this happens. So I get over, and I go, "Yeah, can I help you?" He goes, "My girlfriend loaded the magazine backwards, and it fed, and the bullets in the chamber backwards." I went, "Okay, that's fine. Where is it?" He says, "It's right there on the tray." So I look at it. I go, "Okay." And I go, "You know what? I'm going to take this firearm. I'm going to go over to the other side. There's nobody over there, because I don't want anybody else to get hurt as I knock this bullet out in case it goes off." And the girl actually started crying. And she goes, "Did I cause that?" I go, "Well, did you load the magazine?" She goes, "I did." Now, I knew nothing was really going to happen, but you've got to think about it as an RSO. You obviously you got to get the bullet out. You can't let them leave with the firearm in that condition. The primer's on the side where you're going to strike it. Now, obviously, I'm not going to use a tool that is as small as a firing pin that would be directly in the middle to hit the primer, but you don't know. There's always that chance that, because you can't see where your tool's going. So I used a cleaning rod, a larger cleaning rod that just barely fit in the barrel, which obviously means that I'm going to be outside away from the primer. But I got to tell you, when I've got that firearm down and I'm looking right at that bullet, and then I go, I'm going to flip it over. So I flip it over so even the bullet's down, and holding it and got that rod and just tapping it nice and slight, and the bullet pops out and nothing happens. There is a sigh of relief, I'll be honest with you, because who knows what could happen. And then I take the firearm back, and this particular occasion, the boyfriend was already packing everything up, and he goes, "Yeah, that pretty much freaked my girlfriend out." I go, "Good," because it really freaked me out too, because I hate that. It's not the first time I've done it. It won't be the last time that I have to retrieve a bullet out of a barrel like that. That is in backwards, but that is that's a scary story, not a horror story. So, but that's it. That's the stories that I remember that were the worst from the range. They're all interesting situations. Over 5 years of doing this, I'm sure there's other stories that I have forgotten about. Maybe my brain wants me to forget about them. But those are the stories that I can remember at this point of the weirdest or scariest or most horrific in the range. So other than the guy reholstering his firearm and shooting himself in the leg, but we've talked about that one before. He comes back to the range all the time. Holster the right firearm. All right, so that's it. Horror stories from the range. Thank you for watching. Appreciate it. This is Rich down here in the bunker saying to you, Always be aware of your surroundings. Always have enough food to bug out or to shelter in place. Also, prep like your life depends on it, and pay attention to what you are doing and what your friends are doing when you're at the range. Subscribers, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. We're really cruising. Pass this on to all your friends. And maybe they have some stories too. And if you have some stories from the range, email them to me, all right? Or not email them to me, sorry. Comment back. Let me know some of your horror stories, and other people can read those horror stories, and maybe we'll share them online. So that's about it. Thanks a lot. Y'all take care. Yeah, I guess that's it. All right. Be safe.